Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of The Collector's Edge. I'm Michael. This is Brandon. Say hey, Brandon.
Hey guys.
So we're trying to do something here. We're trying to do a knife channel, maybe a little different than some of the other ones that you guys have found online. Um, we're gonna do stuff that you're probably used to, like knife reviews and things of that nature. But we're trying to focus this a bit more of the mindset of a collector rather than like your average just knife user. Um, we're not going to be focusing as much on, I guess, what a lot of people would either call like EDC or budget carry. We're going to be kind of dealing mainly with the type of knives that collectors are interested in, type of knives that collectors are hunting, the ones that people will view as like essential in your collection, things of that nature. And we want to kind of get a lot of input from you guys to kind of hear what you think about the stuff we're saying. If you guys feel the same way, if you have different opinions, we would like this channel to ultimately be really interactive um, in terms of just getting the mindset of the average collector out there, and what you guys are interested in. If you guys are find the same characteristics of knives appealing that we do, things of that nature. We really do want a lot of feedback, and in the future, we hope to do live streams where we can kind of do a lot of communication back and forth with you guys. Um, for today, we're mainly just trying to do a bit of an intro and kind of let you guys know a little bit about us and, like I said, what our goal is for this channel. Um, and before I go into, kind of talking about me, Brandon, is there anything you want to add in terms of goals for the channel?
No, man, you pretty much nailed it. Like you said, we're primarily collectors here. I mean, we do quote unquote use our knives, but primarily, I would say what's in my pocket outside of potentially carrying multiple knives is essentially pocket jewelry, right? So,
Exactly.
so definitely more on the collector side. So, pretty much nailed it, man.
Okay. Well, good. Well, me and him are on the same page, so that's probably really good for the channel.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and I guess to kind of talk a little bit about me and my relationship with knives and how I ended up where I'm at today. Um, I mean, probably like most of you guys that are listening to this, I as a kid was pretty interested in knives. Like I really can't remember a time when I wasn't. Um, I mean, I guess probably some of my earliest memories. So probably I don't know. I was about maybe 8 at the time, and like the movie Rambo: First Blood came out, and uh, or I guess what was the sequel called Rambo, or was it called First Blood's the
First
first one,
blood,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
Okay, never mind. So it's just called Rambo. Okay, but anyway, I remember he had like a survival knife in that, and I remember being like fascinated more by the knife than anything else in the movie. Um, so I mean, like that's like one of my earlier memories of like where like knives really caught my attention, and then like I don't know, maybe like around like I guess like junior high, I um I was really fascinated by ballet songs. I got very into them. I was also very lucky to get into them when Benchmade was still really a ballet song company. So I kind of and back then I mean we're talking about the late '80s. So like they were not the price tag they are now. So they were with a little bit of or not a little bit, kind of a lot of savings. I was able to actually afford that even as a um, either junior high or maybe even like early high schooler.
Can you do all
So
the
I got really
tricks?
into what I could do like I mean the kids that are doing these now are like dude they're so far beyond what I mean like we would do like I don't know like 4 or 5 different openings. I see the stuff people are doing now and I'm like blown away like it's fucking crazy. It kind of it's funny it actually kind of reminds me of skateboarding.
Yeah.
So when I was around the same age, I also skated, and man, the tricks that the pro skaters were doing when I was like 14 or 13, um, dude, I see like literally like 12-year-old kids right now doing that the same tricks that like pro
Right.
skaters were going back then. Like I don't know how shit got so much they got so much better, but they did. It blows my mind. But anyway, back to knives. Like I said, like got really into ballys and everything. And at this point in time, like collecting wasn't a thing, but I was like probably I guess starting around like I don't know, 12-ish. I was carrying a knife daily. Um and and coming to think about it, bringing it to school, which looking back, probably not
Oh,
the best idea, but fuck them.
times have changed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so anyway, but yeah, I mean, like I said, once again, like it was, I had already became a part of my daily life. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Now we're gonna fast forward a bit because it kind of just stayed that way until I guess somewhere in the mid to late 90s, I was in a mall that had a knife shop. And I remembered Benchmade, from the Valley days and everything. I remember going in there and being like, oh, look at that. It's fucking, some Benchmades and everything. And I'd noticed that like I was seeing a lot of like pocket knives, a lot of folders. And it was also probably around the first time I remembered seeing like a pocket clip on a knife. And I remember being like, "Oh wow, that's really fucking cool." Because
Hmm.
even though I still carried a knife all the time, like I don't know. To me, the invention of a pocket clip was like genius. Like I don't even know what was the first knife company that did that. I should look that up sometime. Or I don't know who was the first that did it, or at least the first where it became like where it caught on. But like whoever that is, they're goddamn genius. Because it was, yeah, I mean, it just kind of changed everything because I don't know. Personally, I hate having just a knife like flopping around in my pocket and everything. Like the Bally's I used to always carry in my like back right pocket, and it kind of did okay back there. But anyway,
I'm
so
pretty sure it
back to
was a Spyderco, if I'm not mistaken, that had the first
I
pocket
think I've
clip.
heard that.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I wonder what year that was.
yeah, that's a
Once
good
again,
question.
probably should have looked this up before
We
starting the video, but
came well
whatever.
prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, we are so professional, guys. You guys wouldn't be blown away constantly by our level of professionality. Um, anyway, so yeah, I remember seeing that and being like, well, shit, I think I should buy one of these Benchmades. So I did, and it was actually an automatic. Come to think about it, and then I went back like just like a month later and bought another one that wasn't an automatic. Um, and I would at this point still I wouldn't really say like I was like collecting really. I had multiple knives. Most of them were kind of like the Bally's that I had from when I was younger, plus like I don't know whatever fucking like gas station knife or whatever gas station ish knife that I saw at like a gun show that I might have been at. So I bought like some stuff like that, but buying those two Benchmades were probably kind of my first step into a higher tier of knives at that point, and you know, stepping out of that like I said, that gas station knife range, and I just remember being really into them. I just remember being like really into it, like and like any chance I had a chance to use a knife to cut something I wanted to and stuff like that, and um, it was just this like constant thing, and anyway, so like, but then even then, like, I kind of, I'd kind of buy something here and there, but I still wasn't really at the point of where like collecting had became like a thing at all. Um, then I guess if we're going to fast forward to probably around like 2010, so about a decade later, um, like, and in between that time, like, like I said, like I, had like, bought random knives here and there, but still wasn't like, um, it wasn't like how it is today. I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
But I will say a big difference was from the time period of when I got those Benchmades to like around 2010, the internet had came about, obviously. And that really kind of changed so much, right? Because I mean, like pre-internet days, like, you're really on your exposure to knives was like maybe you had, if your local city or town had a gun and knife show come by, you might be
Right.
exposed there. Or if your mall had a knife store like mine did, or if you, I don't know, fucking your local gas station, as we talked about. But otherwise, I mean, you just didn't really have exposure. And then I and honestly, this is so crazy, but I can't even remember what kicked it off around 2010. But at some point, I guess I must have gotten some knife and then went online. And when I started to see like more exposure to what was out there at like around 2010. And I think, if memory serves me correctly, I think I remember Blade Forms at that point. Maybe, or maybe that was a couple years later, but it definitely was finding more. Uh, like I wouldn't even call it really a knife community at that point. Not at least not that I found, but I
Yeah.
started finding like about more knives and everything. And I started buying like Spyderco's. I started buying a lot of zero tolerance. I actually still think of those days as being the kind of the golden age of zero tolerance.
Yes.
Got into Microtech. Got really into Guardian Tactical back when they were doing. I think they did have all OTS at that point, but they were doing a lot of folders at that point, which I
Oh yeah.
actually still think. Yeah, and I personally, I'm still in love with them. I think they're criminally underrated. I really really like the especially if you like a tank of a knife. They're fucking ridiculous. But so anyway, yeah. So around like 2010, probably 2010 to around 2014, maybe 2015, I was collecting pretty regularly, at least by certain standards, and starting to accumulate a decent little collection. Some of my stuff still, like I would say at that point in time, probably my highest end knives were a couple of the like I guess you'd call it the upper end of zero tolerance and like microtechs and guardian tacticals, and then I had stuff that were like like benchmade and fucking Spyderco, and but they also had stuff like SOG, which actually a couple of those were still pretty damn cool. But so it kind of had a bit of a range in terms of I guess what would be considered to some degree budget or budget-ish at least up to I guess some of those like ZTs like looking back, they probably were. I mean, I think they were over 500, which at the time seemed like a lot. Um, I remember even kind of thinking to myself, like, the fuck am I doing? The first time I, like, probably broke spending over 400 on a knife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you remember those days? Yeah.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Nowadays, what we consider an amazing deal. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So like yeah, so and that lasted till around 2014 or 2015, somewhere around there. And I really don't remember how it fizzled out for me. If it was just a matter of like, I just wasn't seeing anything new that was grabbing my attention, and maybe a mixture of that. Plus, also at that point in time, at least for what I found online, I don't feel like the knife community was nearly as big as it is now. So it was easier to burn yourself out because like you're just wasn't they weren't just constantly pumping out new knives and everything, which is kind of good and bad. I mean, on one hand, like I think the people that don't like that would say that like you were getting a lot of rehashed shit and stuff that is uninspiring. But then on the flip side, the fact that like more stuff is kind of constantly being pumped out, it keeps people, I think, a little bit more interested, because stagnation tends to lead to people doing what I did, where you just kind of like fade away. Um, and so that's kind of what happened. I kind of faded away and and I didn't like sell off my collection or anything like that. They just kind of went in a safe place and sat there and in storage, and I still carried something daily, but really didn't do much until around um I guess it was around 2021 or 2022. A guy that that was in my weekly poker game. He happened to pull out this one knife, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." I was like, "Let me take a look at that," because he kind of knew I just generally like knives, and all of a sudden, like because of I noticed like we talked about his knife that day, and then like I think like the next week he like bought a knife and a new one, and so that like via vicariously through him, I was kind of like getting more interested, and then like at some point I just found myself like being like, I need to look into what's out there nowadays. And when I kind of got back into the knife world, I was like, holy shit, everything's different. Like there's this like whole community out there. There's so many brands that were not around back in my day. Or if they were, I did not know of them. Um, and so anyway, that kind of then evolved into where we're at now. When I first started kind of getting back into it in around that like 2021, 2022 time, um, I kind of picked up with a lot of the brands I had left off on because I just kind of, it was what I was used to, but that quickly morphed into a bunch of different brands that I'd never heard of that, to me were like new and exciting and seemed to be exciting to fucking everyone in the community. Um, and yeah, so without like boring everybody anymore, that's a pretty good story as to what got me here today. What about for you, Brandon?
Yeah, well, I guess here, let's switch to here. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of similar actually to kind of what you described. Probably around the time I was I don't know, 8 or so. We had this little fruit tree next to the house in an alley, and while I was there, I actually found a pocket knife in the dirt there somehow. This was in Detroit, Michigan, so maybe that helps as to why I found a knife. But yeah, and then since then, I just found it fascinating and decided at that moment that I'm a knife collector now. So started getting knives here and there from little hardware stores, cheap things, mostly non-locks, slip joints, right? And then became the guy that everyone knew as the knife guy. So was getting a lot of, hey, I have this knife, here you go, more as presents during birthdays, that sort of thing. And just kind of like you said, as I got older, more money in my pocket, was able to afford more high-end knives. And I remember my first over $100 knife that came into the collection was actually a Microtech, an Ultratech. I actually still have that knife today. And then from there, the shock of owning such a knife and paying such money, paying multiple $100s for a knife, is pretty crazy, when you first start thinking about it. But like you said, nowadays that's kind of what we would consider, I guess, a budget knife, right? And then, like you said, got on the internet, and I did take a break for a little bit from knife collecting, kind of moving over to firearms for quite some time, and then realized, hey, this is getting kind of expensive. Maybe I should go back to pocket knives. And then shortly to discover that it's just as expensive, if not more so. But, that childhood love of knives never died in me, so here I am today. But like you said, initially, started collecting again after coming back from firearms. And just realizing all these knife brands that I didn't know about, or all the new stuff out there. And I was never a big social media guy, but then realizing, all these awesome knives people were showing or having, and how do I get these knives? And realizing, you kind of have to be in the know and on the buy button to get these things. So, that's when I started getting into Facebook and Instagram, just to kind of get a feel for when these makers were making these knives to get them, and just kind of exploded from there. Now, you know, I do still collect low to high end knives, anywhere from, I have dollar knives in the collection up to, multiple $1,000 knives in the collection. So, kind of a little bit of a spread to what you can kind of see in the collection, down to anything from like a Miguran, even cheaper. Like I said, nothing is the highest or lowest of what's on the table here, but you kind of get a range for it. But you can kind of see somewhat of a theme here, that I do tend to go towards some of the more plain Jane knives. Not that I don't, go go against that rule sometimes with something like this, right? But for the most part, I do tend to, my bread and butter is kind of these plain Jane models. So you'll be seeing quite a bit of that on the channel.
I do wanted to touch back on something you mentioned. You talked about finding that knife in the woods, and this question has nothing to do with knives, but when you were a child, did you ever find pornography in the woods?
Yeah, I have found some crazy things in the woods, but no, I did not. But sounds like you might have, eh?
I certainly have. And one time I was at work, this is about 10 or 15 years ago, and somebody mentioned something about finding pornography in the woods. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I thought that was just me. And they're like, oh
Oh.
no. And then like a couple other people chimed in. They're like, oh yeah, we used to find porn stuff in the woods all the time. And and I don't believe our woods are now littered with pornography from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even sure if they make porn mags anymore. Anyway, I think the internet probably killed all that. But anyway, yeah, it just seemed to be. I noticed that like it was a common theme, and all of us grew up in different places.
Yeah.
But apparently in the late '80s, early '90s, well, mainly late '80s, come or hell, even mid '80s, the American woods were littered with pornography. So you should have
Huh.
spent more time in the woods. What I'm getting at,
I
but
guess so. Yeah.
yeah, you really missed out, dude. Yeah, the woodland porn fairies have been laid to rest now, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Did.
that back to knives.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about us, who we are, and how we got here, and our place in this world. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear your opinions on what we talked about, what got you into this hobby or obsession, whichever tomato tomato. Um, we want, like I said, we want this to be interactive. We truly want this to be more of a community than just our channel. Of course, we're gonna have to build a following before we get it there, but hopefully that day will be coming. And yeah, the like I said, we want you guys to kind of get to know us a little bit. We want to get to know you. And by the way, we're recording this on Thanksgiving, so I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving out there.
Yes.
Kind of cool that our first episode is being done on today. I'm sure our loved ones are thrilled that we're taking time to do this instead of hanging out with them. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it. Brandon, what about you, bud?
Yeah, dude, no, I think you said it perfectly. Looking forward to talking knives, meeting people with similar interests, and just having fun, talking about the stuff we love, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And I guess the uh, obligatory please like and subscribe. Please tell
Oh
your
yes.
nice friends about us, all that type of deal. We obviously we are brand new and we need all the fucking help you can get or can give us, I guess I should say. All we can get, you can give. Um, anyway, guys, hope everybody has a great day. And Brandon, I'll let you sound off and please keep an eye out for us.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for watching. Take care and catch you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.